Our Ryan Wilson has a new mock draft at CBSSports.com. At the very top, it looks the same as last week. He's got Travis Hunter going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. But then he has the Giants trading from 3 to 2 to get Shedeur Sanders. And that's notable because Daniel Jones benched today by the Giants. And our Jonathan Jones says he's not going to play for the Giants again, going to be inactive the rest of this season. So let's get into it with Ryan Wilson there and Mike Renner here. And Mike, I want to get your take on the Jags first because you've been pretty outspoken about this. I mean, if you are Jacksonville and you do get that #1 pick, you're one of the few teams in the top 5, I think, that really doesn't need a quarterback. So do you take a guy who can play both sides or do you trade down?
To me, I'm trading down. I just think I look at that roster and I go position by position, and you are not built to compete with the elites in the NFL. You saw it this past weekend. They were outclassed from a talent perspective against the Detroit Lions at a massive level. So, one, Travis Hunter, would he have made the difference in that game? Even if Trevor Lawrence were playing? Heck no. I mean, they have a lot of needs on this team. So if I have this, I'm doing that calculus in my head, and I say one Travis Hunter versus what I could get in a trade, and just anyone trading up to the #1 overall pick, because there really are only those 2 quarterbacks in this class, they're going to give you a haul. It's not only going to be a first this year, it's going to be a first next year. It's going to be a number of picks that they need at this moment in time to rebuild this roster, especially when you look at some of those bloated contracts. They're not going to be able to sign free agents to make things fix. They have to do it via the draft. So from that perspective, it's a no-brainer in my eyes. Travis Hunter, great, worth the pick, but not for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Hassel, what I'm hearing is that Mike Renner hates Travis Hunter, so let's put that out there because we know how well the Sanders family, their social media crew will respond to that. No, I get Mike's point. My only concern is that, and Mike, I think you pretty much agree, there's no Caleb Williams, there's no Jaden Daniels, there's no Drake May. So who are the teams that might be interested? I mean, the teams right behind them, the Giants, of course, they just benched their guy. The Browns, would Shedeur want to go to Cleveland? That's another conversation. We've heard Coach Prime say he's going to have some say in where his son ends up. And the Raiders, Tom Telesco doesn't like to trade up historically, so we'll see what happens. But I'm with you. If there's a team that's interested, you're running to answer that phone call and making any move possible. The other one that's sort of funny, at #8, the Carolina Panthers sit there. If they traded up to #1 again for a quarterback, there would be some hilarity in that. I would suggest they don't do it and find another quarterback in a different way. But if the Jaguars are stuck there, I think Travis Hunter is probably the smart pick. I don't know if that's what Trent Baalke, should he remain the GM, would do. Our buddy Pete Prisco called me today to yell and say that there's no way the Jaguars are taking Travis Hunter. So perhaps he's in the same boat as Mike in terms of thinking their best interest might be to trade down or to get a big guy.
Yeah, and whoever's going to be making this decision might not be in Jacksonville right now. That might be a complete tear down and rebuild there from the front office and head coach perspective. Mike, if you're playing like a matchmaker, where do you think Travis Hunter would fit the best?
Gosh, that's a great question. I do think the fit I keep going back to is the New England Patriots, just because they need a #1 type of wide receiver. But then they also could use a guy who's kind of a role player on the other side of the ball at cornerback. And I think, to me, that's where Travis would probably want to do, just when you look at contracts. Contracts for wide receivers far outpace that of cornerbacks. Even if you're not like a top-flight guy, you're still making more than a Patrick Surtain, who is, the highest-paid cornerback in football. So just from a dollars and cents perspective, I think he's going to want to play wide receiver. If the New England Patriots, he's a #1 type of wide receiver prospect, and he also can give you some juice on the opposite side of the football. So that's exactly what the Patriots need for Drake May.
And there are the Patriots in the draft order right now, just outside the top 5. Had the Giants trading from the #5 position to the #2 position to get Shedeur Sanders. Ryan, news today that Daniel Jones' career with the New York Giants is over. So I mean, it's 100% they have to be taking a quarterback in this draft, right?
Yeah, right. I'm hesitating, Chris and Mike, because again, this isn't the Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May draft class. So yeah, you would imagine you have to trade up to get a quarterback, and I have them leapfrogging the Raiders, who are sitting there just above them, and they would probably take a quarterback as well because they need one. And sometimes you have to overreach to fill a position of need. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but you can talk yourself into both Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward in terms of being franchise quarterbacks. Don't forget, Daniel Jones was a top 5 pick as well, and there's a lot of of hemming and hawing when it happened because it was unclear if he was worth that. And Mike and I talked earlier today, and Mike made the case, and this tells you how hard it is to evaluate his position, that Tommy Cutlass is actually an upgrade over Daniel Jones to the point that they might drop out of the race for a quarterback if they win too many more games. Think about that for a moment. Undrafted versus former first-round pick. So those are the concerns there. The only other thing I'll say, and I think Shedeur makes some sense in the Brian Daboll system, and he's gotten better each and every year, going from FCS to last 2 years in FBS. Just to answer the previous question, because I was thinking about it while Mike was talking, the Cincinnati Bengals and Travis Hunter make a lot of sense to me if they could pull that off and keep losing some games.
With Shedeur,
wow, okay.
With Shedeur Sanders and the Giants, the thing is he may want to dictate where he wants to go. You've heard Deion say that, and there may be teams out there crazy enough to say, we'll make you and your head coach, Deion Sanders, a package deal, because I don't think Deion wants to stay at Colorado after his son leaves. The cupboard is going to be bare there after what you got the #1 and #2 overall picks leave next spring. So the Giants may want him, may very well. They might not be in position to with all these other teams that they're competing with at the top spot. And then with Shedeur, he may just say, you know, we saw Eli Manning do it. We've seen other quarterbacks do it in the past. I get to choose my landing spot. I have the leverage here. You don't. You don't get to decide if I play for you or not. So I think that's an interesting storyline to watch and very well could dictate where Shedeur ends up.
Ryan had the Giants leapfrogging the Browns there to get him at 3, and Cam Ward going to the Browns at #3, but I know that you feel like Cam Ward is actually the better quarterback prospect than Shedeur Sanders. Are you, or at least you said that last week, has that changed at all?
No, Cam Ward is a smidge, if that's a unit of measurement, ahead of Shedeur for me. Arm strength is better. He's a better athlete, and I think he moves a little better out in space. They both play a little too much hero ball, probably for the likes of NFL teams in terms of playing in structure. But Cam, like Shedeur, has gotten better each and every year, and he's made the biggest strides this year playing on the biggest stage. We'll see how this plays out over the next month of the season because he's done a lot of dragging this team up and down the field to wins. I just wonder, and Mike hinted at it a moment ago, if Shedeur ain't interested in going to the Giants, I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to go to Cleveland. So I was doing that mental math in my head when I was figuring out who would trade up for whom and take a quarterback here. I think Cam in Cleveland, should Kevin Stefanski survive, and that's a big if. I love that fit. I think they could bring out the best in one another, but Cleveland has so many ancillary issues outside of the quarterback head coach relationship that it's going to be hard to figure out how this goes playing forward. But I love the idea of that fit, in theory, in Cleveland with Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah, I think Ward to the Browns is my favorite fit for him because if ownership really is tied to Deshaun Watson, and man, they were really tied to him this year from giving him that starting role all the way up until he tore his Achilles, well, then Cam Ward could spend that year on the bench. And I truly believe that once he gets to the NFL, he could really use that year on the bench to clean up his footwork, to clean up some fundamentals that you see on tape that just need get a little bit crisper once you talk about getting to the NFL level. Because once he does that, the sky is the limit for this guy. Comparisons are going to be made to like a Patrick Mahomes coming out of Texas Tech because everyone ends up making those comparisons to these project sort of QBs every year. But I think there is an aspect to his game where you could see a ceiling push really high for him at the next level just because of the development year on year you've seen from him at every single stop along the way in his collegiate career. And then just how big of an arm he has. I mean, he truly has one of the biggest arms in college football, can spin it at every single level of the defense. And when you have those sort of tools, you can really be a high-end NFL player. Cam Ward, sky's the limit for this guy.
Well, Ward and Sanders were the only two quarterbacks in Ryan's mock draft last week, his mock first round. This week, there's another quarterback in your first round, and it's Jalen Milroe going number 26 to the Raiders. So you have trading back up into the first round for another pick. What does that say about how you feel about Jalen Milroe potentially enticing teams like Vegas?
A lot of mental gymnastics went into this, I'm going to be honest, Chris. I just said that Tom Telesco does not trade up or down, and here I have him trading down with Mike's Green Bay Packers. And the thinking is this. Look, man, desperate times call for desperate measures. I would imagine that if they had a time machine, they would have gotten one of the quarterbacks in last year's draft class. 6 went in the top 12. At 13, they got Brock Bowers. Turns out he's pretty good. But Jalen Milroe, you have to hope you get the best of Anthony Richardson. And we saw the best last weekend. We've seen plenty of bad with Anthony Richardson as well. But that also means you have to get get someone in there like Shane Steichen that can put his quarterback in position to have success. And we certainly didn't see that with Luke Getsy over the first 9 games. So there are a lot of ifs there. Tom Brady's obviously a minority owner now. He's going to have some say in the coaching staff and the quarterback. And I think if you like Jalen Milroe, if you love Jalen Milroe more than the other quarterbacks after number 1 and number 2, it's reasonable to go get him, the fifth-year option, those things that we talk about. But the high-end athleticism, the high-end upside is all there. Would have liked to seen a little more progress in Kalen DeBoer's offense in year 1. Haven't quite seen it yet. But the opportunity is there, Mike, to be a special player. But the circumstances have to be perfect.
I don't hate it because it's a weak class, too. It's not like there's a guy sitting on the board there in the mid-20s that's going to be a stud for you. And if you just consider Miller an athlete, because the NFL is an athlete-driven league, he could be a first-round type of wide receiver if he just wanted to switch to that position, or a first-round DB. The guy runs a 4.3 at 220 pounds. He is a special, unique playmaker. Is he a quarterback? I'm not sold at the next level, but the man has tools to get the job done.
All right, we are going to get into the back half of Ryan Wilson's first-round mock and into the teens as well. You see Ashton Jeanty again going in the top 12 like he did last week. He had him go to the Cowboys last week. This week, the Cincinnati Bengals at 11, and Amanda Guerra is going to jump on in because she had a, well, not even a front row seat. She had a sideline pass to watch Jeanty this past weekend.
I will tell you, when he takes off, I don't think I've ever seen anything that fast on a field before. Yes, can he make history going very high in the first round as a running back? We'll talk to Ryan about that coming up. Welcome back into Spotlight, going over Ryan Wilson's latest mock draft. We just took a look at 1 through 10, taking a look at 11 through 20 there, and sitting at 11 at the very top, Ashton Jeanty with Boise State, the running back. We've seen the history that he's been able to make this season. I got to watch him, Mike, in person. I was there at the Boise State game. Obviously, they're loading the box. I think he only had 1 long run, but I am telling you, it was like, I don't even know what it was like. It was a blur. Yeah. It was like one of the little cartoons. That's just like that had just like dust coming up behind him. Let's bring back in Ryan Wilson. You have him going 11 to the Bengals. In your mock draft, by the way, people can find it at CBSSports.com. You call it a vanity pick, Ryan. So do you like this at all, or are we just having fun with this mock draft?
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. And Mike and I have talked about Ashton Jeanty, what feels like every single week. And look, we spend a lot of time watching players, individual players, as we get through the draft process. And sometimes you sort of get in a rhythm and you see the 15th running back. And then you see someone like Ashton Jeanty and you're convinced that he's not of this world because of the things that you saw in person. He is truly special. And I say it every time we talk about him. He is Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs special. I think he's a better receiver than perhaps he's given opportunities at Boise State. And in terms of the Bengals, look, Chase Brown is certainly a good young back, but they need depth there. Now they need offensive line help and plenty of defensive help as well. But I just feel like if you're losing T. Higgins once the season's over and you want to add some more weapons at the skill position, Jahmyr Gibbs plus Joe Burrow plus Ashton Jeanty feels like a ton of offense that could even overcome the worst Bengals defenses we've been subjected to at points this season.
The more I watch Jeanty, though, Ryan, the more I become convinced he's not lasting to pick 11. He's not lasting to where the Bengals are going to be drafted.
Robinson go at 8, 2023?
Yes. And I think he's going higher than that.
Wow.
I think he's going Zeke Elliott high. And it's not just that he's that special. It's also that the top of this class doesn't really offer the top-end blue-chip talent that we maybe saw a year ago or have seen in years past. There's not those other guys that you're really passing up on. And with the rise of too high and all these defenses giving you these very favorable run looks, having a back that special, it's helped all these offenses. You've seen how the Ravens offense has transformed. You've seen what the Falcons offense looks like this season. I think people are going to be lining up to get a guy like Ashton Jeanty in their offense, and that means I don't think he lasts this long. I just don't. He's that special.
I was able to talk to his running backs coach. I was like, are you really coaching this guy still? Like, he said, yes, we're going over the smallest details, but there, of course, are still things to learn every single day and every single game. Let's keep going through. And I was told, Mike, you wanted to talk about this next pick, if I am not mistaken, the Texans taking defensive lineman Walter Nolan at 21 overall out of Ole Miss. What stands out to you about this?
He's a dream fit for the Texans because what they need on the interior and the fact that he is a special run defender on tape so far this season. Super explosive. His ability to unlock into contact consistently resets the line of scrimmage in that Ole Miss defense that's been so good this season in the SEC. You flip on this guy's tape and you are just in awe of what he could be at the next level. It's a great defensive tackle class, and he's right up there near the top of it. He may be the most impressive just from a pure athletic standpoint in what he can do on tape, and I think his best football is still ahead of him. 2 years Texas A&M, transferred to Ole Miss this year, and he has shot through the roof his stock. He could even go higher than this when it's all said and done.
You know what, Amanda? A few years ago, I would do this segment with Pete Prisco and Brady Quinn, and they spent 15 minutes just beating me about the head with my picks. Mike is a breath of fresh air because he typically sort of likes what I do, and it makes me feel better about myself, so I think we're all winners here. There's nothing really to add in terms of Walter Nolan brings because Mike talked about it, but I think it makes a lot of sense in the middle of that defense, and that defense has gotten younger and faster, not only in the front seven, but also in the secondary as well, guys like Kamari Lassiter. And it feels like the Texans have a sense for finding guys that perhaps other teams overlook, whether it's taking Derek Stingley Jr. ahead of Sauce Gardner or whether it's getting Kamari Lassiter in the second round, even though he ran in the 4.6s and was probably a top 32 talent. And I think Walter Nolan, to Mike's point, is going to be a long list of edge rushers and interior defensive linemen that go in this first round because unlike last year, this is going to be a defensive heavy top 32.
Just wait. They'll come out of the shadows, Ryan, and they'll keep coming after you. But Mike is being nice as of right now. Let's go one pick further. Let's go to the Cardinals picking at 22 as of right now, taking wide receiver Luther Burden out of Missouri. They've got a lot of good weapons on offense, though. Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride. So what do you think about this that Ryan has him going there?
It's an arms race in the NFC West, though, with those offenses and all the weapons that the Rams have out there, that the 49ers have out there, that the Seahawks have out there. So they're just playing catch-up to the rest of that division. So a guy like Luther Burden, you have a bunch of kind of possession type of wide receivers there, no great yak guys. Luther Burden is the best yak wide receiver in this draft class. Hasn't gotten featured a ton in that Missouri offense, unfortunately, because of their deficiencies in the passing game, but on 53 catches, he's broken 24 tackles. He is perfectly what that offense is missing at this moment in time. So if he goes to the Arizona Cardinals, they should be favorites in that division for a few years to come.
The last one we want to talk about, let's talk about the Chiefs. And people will be sad, but probably not surprised. Ryan, you have them taking a tight end. We don't know if this is the last season for Travis Kelce, now at 35 years old. But Ryan, is it time to start looking ahead to the future? Who do you have him taking?
Yeah, Tyler Warren out of Penn State, and me and Mike and Rick Spielman talked about the tight ends and Tyler Warren in the summer, and I thought maybe late day 2, early day 3. He is the offense outside of the running backs that they have in Singleton and Allen, but he is 75% of that offense, it feels like, not just receiving, but also running and throwing the football. Is he the best athlete? Is he Brock Bowers? No, he's not, but he just does everything so well and is so precise in what he does, and he's a chain mover, and I think he fits perfectly into an offense like this in Kansas City. Last year they got Xavier Worthy. I thought perhaps maybe a little overdrafted because of his lack of size. I think you can fit Tyler Warren into this system day one, and he's going to hit the ground running. Not a fit for every system perhaps this high, but Kansas City makes a lot of sense from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, it seems like we've wanted that Kelce replacement. He's been like first-round mocks. They always get a tight end every single year. This year it seems like they have to get it. This is it for Travis Kelce. And with Tyler Warren, the football IQ stands out on tape, and that's what makes Travis Kelce so special. Is his ability, the rapport he has with Patrick Mahomes is so special and so unique that not a lot of other guys can replicate that. I think Tyler Warren could, because you see him doing the same stuff with Drew Aller on tape at the collegiate level that he's going to be asked to do at the NFL level. When that's the case, yeah, that guy's worth the first rounder in my opinion.
We're going to be asking this question more and more as we get closer to the end of the season. So you think this is it for Kelce?
I think it is. I think it's time.
Ryan, you think it's it?
Yeah, he's got to go on tour and be the bouncer. So I think he has other things in his future.
The bouncer? I don't even, Ryan, what
Isn't that what they do? I don't know.
What are you talking about? I mean, I guess he can just be Taylor Swift's right-hand man. Maybe he'll just be like a full-time backup dancer. Ryan Wilson with the first pick as we get closer and closer to the NFL draft and closer to the end of the season, seeing what these teams really need.